Hey guys, so today things we're going to do a little bit differently. This is ARC 300 D&D, so I figured this might be a helpful tutorial for anybody who's working inside of Rhinoceros, and Rhino is a 3D modeling tool. Anybody working in Revit, that's fine. This is now, we're just stepping into a little bit outside of Revit, but just as a kind of, just a step outside. So somebody happens to be using Rhinoceros and Nazrat from our ARC 300 class, and he asked that I, just look at the model, and I've got some suggestions here. So rather than it just being for one person, I figured why not try and make it for the whole class. So if you've got questions about Rhino or Revit, I'm happy to try and answer them as best I can. I know I had somebody ask me on in Thursday's class for some help from a different studio. I do hope this is helpful though, and let's go ahead and get started. So here is the model. Here's the model that I got from Nazrat. Thank you, Nazrat, for this model. Real quick here, I've got my custom settings here for my options here. It doesn't really mean anything except that it might look a little bit different from your interface. So real quick, this is just a couple of views that when we're working inside the model, you can double click here and fire that view up. This might be a little bit advanced. I'm realizing even as I just get started here. So this is Nazrat's poly surface for his wonderful kind of cutaway here inside of his building. So we're kind of just flowing through a little walk through here. So what I suggested to Nazrat is maybe we can use some Grasshopper tools here and see how best to maybe, create some of the architecture within this space. First thing I'm going to do is I've got here what's called the poly surface inside of Rhino. Unfortunately, Nazrat, right off the bat, it's really hard to work with poly surfaces inside of Rhino. So what I'm going to have to do is actually rebuild this surface. So it's not a problem. It happens all the time. The fastest way for me to do that is to literally, I'm going to cut sections and rebuild it. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty close to what you had here originally. You can see these kind of draped pieces in Nazrat's model. He's got quite a bit of geometry going on, but also quite a few stretched polygons here. So quite a few stretched faces. It's always super fun to get this process started inside of Rhino. But if I click on this, you can see there's even this geometry here is looking a little bit. I don't want to say convoluted, but it could be simpler. How about that? So the first thing that we would normally do is say rebuild. And it's going to say, but it's not a surface. This is what's called the poly surface, which is a kind of mixture of all sorts of surfaces together. We could run the patch command, but I think we can go further here. This is what I wanted to do anyways. The first thing for anybody starting out inside of Rhino is that everything is a curve or a surface or a, box. Polysurface. So we've really only got so many styles of primitives, and I think when I started working in Rhino, the most difficult thing to remember was that every line is called a curve inside of Rhino. So lines, surfaces, planes, curves, surfaces, planes, polysurfaces. Anyways, maybe that's good for now. What I want to do first is just throw this onto a different layer so that I can just work with it a little bit easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new layer here, and let's do roof. And real quick, I'm just going to come back over to my properties tab here and swap this to, where is my layer? Default. Okay, I need to throw this from default onto the roof layer, and it's going to go ahead and I'm going to turn everything else off. This is Nazrat's wonderful three-dimensional, curved, very complicated piece of geometry here. I would argue this is pretty difficult to do in Revit. You could step into Dynamo and use some pretty sophisticated tools to model it there. But first thing I'm going to do is I was noticing as I was looking at this that we might have some extra geometry in here. I don't know if this is maybe how you made this surface, Nazrat, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to step back and I'm going to do something called a loft. And a loft basically is a way to generate a series of curves through something, and then we can kind of recreate what we've got here, roughly speaking anyways. And what I'd love to do is play around a little bit inside of Grasshopper as well and show you guys some fun stuff we can do. So I'm going to try and keep this to half an hour. I doubt I'll be able to do that, but first thing I need to do is literally I'm going to cut slices through this piece, and I'll show you real quick what we're going to do here. So if I just go back to which one do I want here? Why is this showing up wireframe? Shaded. Let's see what's going on. I just want to know which version. If I click on this, okay, I think that's right. I think I want to look in the right view here. What I'm going to do first here is I'm going to create a little rectangle. One thing you'll notice working in Rhino is as you type something, it should say you don't know what command you want to use. It's going to give you some hints. So there I was typing RECT and it will pop up rectangle, but be careful you don't hit record. So if I keep going here, what I'd like to actually do is I have to create a planar surface. So I'm going to do planar surface real quick here. And if I come to the 3D, we'll see what I've done here is created some planar surface at some location. So in actual fact, what I'd like to do is move this. So MO, and then got to be careful how MOVE, and I got move here. And I got to turn on ortho. So if you remember from AutoCAD, way down here, we got ortho on. I'm going to change that. And now I'm actually going to move my little plane that I've created, and it's going to stay orthogonally oriented here. I could see I'm not going to be able to do this perfectly, but kind of got the ortho cutting through almost at the edge of what's been modeled here. What's going to be important here is think of this like a reverse MRI. I'm going to go through and cut sections across the model. So for us, I should actually probably also create a new layer for this. So let's do sections. And what I'll do is I'll throw this little plane here onto sections. Sections, and now I should be able just to turn that on and off. Perfect. You can see in elevation here, what it's showing me is kind of this, right? So at the edge. So now I'm going to go ahead and copy these. I'm going to go to plan to do that. Copy, COP, and I'll just copy it roughly every, I was doing every 2000 when I was trying this before. Let's do 2000. It's going to let me snap. It won't let me snap, so I'm going to do copy again. And I'm just going to create a bunch of these planes that I'm then going to use to generate some lines. Blam. Blam, something like this. Every roughly 2000, we're going to create a little line section. Real quick here, all the way to the end. We probably want to try and grab this end bit here, but let's see if we can. And then if you tap tab in Rhino, it snaps the orientation. Just little tidbits here and there. Okay, now what? So now imagine we've got all of these little pieces here. What if I turn on wireframe here? So imagine I've cut through all of the geometry every 2 meters or so. It's not going to be perfect, but let's just give it a shot. I don't know why my computer is freaking out. It should be fine. Maybe I got too many GPUs happening here. Okay. What I want to do is I'm going to intersect, what's called an intersect command, between the geometry and these planes. And then we'll end up with a set of sections. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to type intersect. And it's going to think for a second. And now if I turn off the sections, oh, you know what? It's probably on. No, it should be fine. Interesting. Try that once more. I might have to do intersect curves. No, intersect should work. Intersect self. Intersect is the command. Why is it not working? Mm-hmm. Something locked. Intersect. Okay, that should have worked. Let's try this again. Let's see what we got. Aha. So now what happens if I hover over here? Well, in fact, if I turn this off, I have a series of curves. So now I've gotten rid of the geometry. Actually, maybe I'll save the geometry just for now. Let's throw that on. Oh, we got it on the roof layer. Let's turn that off. So now I've just turned off the geometry and I should be able to turn off sections. And now I've got all of these fun little lines. Right, so these lines are now the kind of genesis of the original geometry here. And real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a couple of these lines that I don't really need. Right, I don't really need the edge lines here. What I'm going to do is create what's called a loft between these. And I'll do a test here and see if it works. It's always a good idea, right? So think of a loft as if you have a set of lines. Whoops. If you have a set of lines, we can kind of create a set of geometry through those. Point here, delete. Okay, let's do the other side now. I don't really want this. This is just geometry that I don't really need for this purpose. Trying just to delete these points here so I don't confuse myself or hopefully don't confuse you guys. I don't need this edge here. Bump, bump, bump. I did this test earlier. So hopefully this all shakes out. Toast, toast, toast. Toast, toast, toast. Gone. So I know, Nazareth, we've got some extra geometry in here too. What I'm going to try and do for the sake of this video is we might have to cut this hole later. So we'll make some guesses as to what we want to, what we start as, and then we'll cut out these kind of these other geometries as we go. I'm just going to give a little sampling here how to do this, and then maybe we can do a more detailed approach either in class or otherwise if you guys think this is useful. Okay, cool. So I don't really need these either. Toast, toast, toast. So I don't know if you guys noticed, if I turn back on my roof here, we should see turn back on my roof here. It's roughly correct, right? So we've cut these kind of pieces through the geometry here. And if I just turn off roof again, you can see it's not perfect. I should say, Nazareth, what happens is Rhino can, I don't want to say struggle with, but I really appreciate the kind of sensibility here of like this really elegant curve here. This exercise we might not get, especially here. This looks a little wonky. So we'll see how Rhino sees this curve. It might mess up this little piece here. Anywho, what we'll do now is if you want to see how to do a loft here, let's start off with something easy. So we've got a set of curves, right? 1 curve, 2 curve, 3 curve, 4 curve, 5 curve. We've got all these curves cut through the geometry. And so what we're going to do is we're going to loft. We're going to connect and what's called an interpolation. We're going to interpolate between these curves and create a surface. So I'm going to start off by making this relatively simple. We'll just start with these curves here. And then if you type loft, you can see already we've got a pretty close approximation of what we had before. And we're going to rebuild it, right? I'm going to try and simplify this a little bit. I'm going to hit OK. And now we have a surface. So this is now a fully formed surface instead of the poly surface here. So this is why this is just an exercise in kind of cleaning up the model a little bit. You can see here, if I click on this, it doesn't have the same sort of, and I'm going to delete this real quick, but it doesn't have the same sort of complex geometry that we've got with these pushes and pulls and stretching of this geometry. Not to say it's the wrong way to do it, the original way there. This is just, I would say, can be a cleaner way to do it. But what we can do is you can see it's not perfect. Like I said, it's an approximation. So we are, what are we doing here? Are we close? How close are we, Nazareth? So pretty close, not perfect, not terrible. So I just want to get a sense of, how close are we with the approximation. That 2 meters could become 1 meter, and then you'll have an even closer model to reality, right? So one thing I'll get to is how to actually, maybe we should just do it now. Let's just do it now. Okay. So inside our circle here, I'm going to do the circle last. So you know what? Let's do a circle layer here. So this is our, how do we want to do this? You know what? Maybe we don't have to. Maybe I can do it slightly different. I'm trying to think how to actually build this, guys. So there's two ways we could do this. I know what Nazaret's got here as an idea, but I actually think I'm going to do this separately. Let's do this circle separate. Circle, and we'll grab this and throw it on the circle layer. And it's going to go ahead and turn off circle. Okay, cool. So delete all these. I don't really need these right now. So now you'll see that really for the purposes of generating some geometry here, I actually want to connect these lines as best as I can, and then we can kind of work with what geometry is happening in the middle. Excuse me. And what do we want to do? We probably want to create some curves here. Do I want a polyline? I probably want... didn't think this far ahead, guys. Probably want one of these bad boys here. Handle. Let's interpolate. I think we probably want to interpolate some curves here. So I'm just going to go ahead. Oops. Go ahead and grab here. And I'm just sort of building, again, a rough approximation of what Nazaret has here. And just to generate our first set of curves here. Whoops. I'm going to delete this other curve here. It's not going to be perfect, Nazaret, but I think that this is going to get us most of the way there. Oh, nuts. So you can see here, I just want to have a kind of consistent set of, interpolated curve. Where are we? Interpolate points. And this interpolation, if you guys remember from high school math, we're just roughly approximating the kind of curvature. Ooh, boy, here we go. This is going to mess us up. Going to undo that last one. It's looking a little rough. Dipping a little bit too far down here, so it's not really what I want. Okay, we'll try that one more time. It's sometimes the software is smarter than we are, and it's trying really hard to interpolate that curve to be lower. And the reason is you know what? Maybe it's okay for now. Let's do this. Aha, look at that. Snapped right back. So that interpolation is mostly sorted now. Let's do the same thing. I think I got scared that it was going to give me some wild result. I'm really just going along here and snapping to these lines. This will be important later when we go to build our whole piece of geometry here. So I'm just tracing our lines as we go. And I'm going to keep going here. Bum, 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 bum. Whoops. I realize this part could be a little tedious. Bum, 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 bum. Try and make it as quick and painless as possible. Guess I can go the other way. You know what? I won't go the other way in case we run into mapping problems later. Let's just keep going the same way. Direction can matter, I'm realizing. I got to be careful here. These might even be the wrong way. I don't think they are, but probably want to get closer here. I could see Nazaret's got some fancy curving geometry here. I might go back and redo that one back there. Software is pretty good at sorting out our curves, but it's only as smart as the person inputting the information, which in this case is me. Maybe that was a little lazy. So let's come back in here. We'll do curve, interpolate points. Let's give ourselves a little bit of this. Again, This is an interpolation with an approximation of a geometry, so we'll see how far we can get. And now I'm going to come back in here, and I don't need, whoops, I do need these curves. I just don't need these curves. Gone, whoops. Gone. You know what, maybe, whoops. Okay, that's looking better and better. Now, similarly at the other end here, we probably need to figure out how we're actually going to create this split that our friend Nazareth has created. For now, I'm going to go ahead and do something really wacky and see if... going to say see if our friend Rhino will behave itself, but this may take some massaging, but that's okay. This part is definitely not perfect. I can see already it's going to create some grief for us later. How am I going to do this? You know, let's do this. I'm going to copy it. Oops, not XO, copy. And we'll copy just this down and then down again. Something like this. Apologies, Nazareth. It's not going to be perfect, but I think it'll do the job. Keep these all orientated the same. Really, the point of this exercise is for me to show you Grasshopper, but I want to get, roughly speaking, a geometry that somewhat works. So that's probably cool for now. Let's see what, how far off are we? I know we're going to be off at the end here. So how far off are we though? Hard to tell. So that's okay. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go ahead and generate that loft. So let's go ahead and I'm going to select everything. Loft. But not all the curve and endpoints touch. Let's see what we get. Straight sections is good, and then simplify. Let's see, it's giving me an error here. Why, oh why is that not working? Okay, so that works. That works. That works. That works. Not all the curve endpoints touch. Aha! Rhino is seeing some weirdness when I selected these, so great. Now I have to go back, and this is my fault. I have to go back and make sure I've deleted all the extra little curve bits here. Let's just see. If this doesn't work, I will skip ahead to Grasshopper, but it should work. Try this again. Okay. Yep. So you guys just testing this out, making sure our loft is going to work the whole way, which it looks like it's going to. Whoops. You can see how sometimes if we hit the wrong thing, it's going to go bonkers. So let's just try the whole thing. Ta-da! So Be very careful when we're drawing in those secondary curves there. That was obviously a mistake on my part, but now that we've got something working, I'm going to go ahead and I can select all my lines. Did I give them, you know what, I should probably also put these on a layer. Let's do, I like to name things 3D cut planes or cut lines, cut sections. Let's do that. I call them cut sections. I'm going to drag this over just a touch. And now call this cut sections, blam. Turn them off, turn them on. Probably want to do a 3D, where did my new layer go? 3D new roof geometry, something like this. Now let's loft it up. So I like to rebuild my geometries here, but you can see the end here is going to be very wonky. So let's do 15. Not perfect. How am I going to fix this? Do not simplify. Oof. Look at how complicated this is without simplification. So we see some bubbles and some ripples. Let's see what we get when we do it this way. It's going to think for a second. You can see here that this geometry is very complicated. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to rebuild it simply. And let's do this again. So I'm going to rebuild it using, let's do 25 control points. Maybe that's fair for now. And the whole point of this exercise is to kind of get us to a starting point inside of Grasshopper. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that on my new, where's my layer? Oh, I don't have anything selected. My new roof here. So I'm going to come down to new roof geometry. And if I turn off cut sections here, how far are we from the OG? We may in fact need to kind of go back to that. Let's see what we got. Where's our roof? How far off is it? Pretty bad down here. So we'll have to kind of understand exactly what we want to do here. I think I just really wanted to get this edge and then we can kind of cut out this piece however we need to. But for now, ooh, some stuff in there. For now, what I want to show us is, what do we do with this, right? So how do we rebuild this? I'm actually going to rebuild this piece of geometry in here. We don't know it. I'm going to rebuild it. And what we can do here is, if I do, let's call it 25 by 25. And what this is going to do is it's going to simplify our roof a little bit. And let's see what we've got. That help us or hurt us? Well, it's a pretty complicated shape, but for now, I think this is cool. And I'm going to try two things here. The first is I just want to get an idea for Nazareth anyways as to what we can do with this shape now that we've got some idea of what it's going to look like. I know this isn't perfect, but what do we do inside of a program called Grasshopper? And Grasshopper is going to let us kind of do some more, I don't want to say fun things, but some fun things with this kind of set of curves. So, you know, why don't I turn this off for now and let's go back to our curves. And I'll show you a little bit as to how we can maybe tune this up a little bit and get some fun stuff going here. So let's do Grasshopper. And Grasshopper is a visual coding interface, so lots of fun things happening in here. I don't want any of this, so let's just do new. This is called the canvas, and you know what? For funsies, I'd like to do one thing real quick here. I'm going to turn these off and show you basically, so 3D new roof geometry, some fun things we can do in here. You'll need to download this little lunchbox tool. So this is a super fun tool that will let us kind of orient some ideas of panels or structure in here that I think could be really helpful for when you're drawing a building, and especially buildings like, or shapes like this, I should say, with really complex geometries, if we want to kind of show how they might be supported. and or how we might convert this into, say, a glass structure, say, for instance. So, and simplify the structure, if I was going to say it most bluntly, how we might have some tools to do that. So for anybody who's curious, this is Grasshopper. So this is where the parameters live. So params maths, this is where we can do things like add and subtract. If you really liked calculus in high school, there's domains we can use. So sets of information, sets itself. So this is for lists. So lists of information. So Grasshopper, think of it like all of these components might have a list about them. Or trees. Vectors, so this is about orientation. Curves, so how to generate curves in the program. Surfaces, so how do we generate surfaces or subdivide them. Meshes, so how do we make a mesh. Intersections, how do things intersect, transform. How do we, rotate or array or move things in the space. I should even look, where is move? Is move in here? Move, right? So display, so we're not going to touch on display today. Kangaroo I don't use. And then lunchbox. So for us, remember the idea that everything is a component is probably the easiest way to think of this. These are all a series of how we assign geometries. So you can either what's called create live geometries, or you can kind of preset geometries. So for us, what I'd like to do is, this is probably one of the most confusing things to me inside of inside of Grasshopper, is that this component here, even though it's a surface, we can do this a couple ways. If you double click inside the Grasshopper canvas, I can go surface, and then I've got, so far zoomed out. I've now got this little visual program that says this is a surface. And to select that surface, I can come over here, click the surface inside, right? So I got the surface now, and if I come back to Grasshopper, I can right click and I can say set one surface. And now if it turns red, basically that means that Grasshopper sees, if I hit this little surface, it sees this surface as something that exists to manipulate. So these are all, it's a parameter-based, parametric-based program, so we can go ahead and change things kind of in a modeled way. We can set rules for it. It's probably the simplest way to think about it. So one thing I'm going to do is... I guess I can turn it off. Here, let's do it this way. I'm actually going to turn off the new roof geometry inside the model. However, that doesn't mean to say that it's not still visualized in Grasshopper. So we can do a wireframe, or we can do a shaded, and then you can kind of only draw what's there in the geometry. If I click on the function, it's going to kind of show me what that function is doing. So for any of us who have done math problems or fun problems inside of trying to think, this is really the only program I know that does this so well, is it's highlighting for us what we are transforming or doing or parameterizing inside the software. So first things first, what I think is super useful is to jump over to Lunchbox here. Again, if you don't have it, download it. Let's grab, for me, what I think is super fun. There's two parts of this. Let's do the structure first. So, Nazareth, how are we going to build this thing, right? This wonderful piece of geometry that's kind of floating above the space. So one thing we might do is say, okay, structure over here. Do we want to do a grid? Do we want to do a braced grid? I would actually suggest for us, we probably have a braced one grid structure here. And check this out. So I can select the tool, drop in the code, and now we've got a whole bunch of inputs, right? So these inputs, but you can see that I've got one that matches here. So surface to surface. So I'm going to click and hold, and I have this little string that pops out, and click that into surface. Ta-da! We have just the starts of Rhino and Grasshopper talking to one another, and it's telling me I have a U value and a V value. Think of that as X and Y, but because we don't have a flat plane, this is a surface instead of a flat plane, we have U and V. I actually don't know which way is which in this case. U is, could be to the right or it could be down, but it's generating some set of geometry here. So I can tell, if I come over here, I right click, I can say set integer. Right now I've got 10. I could set this to 5. And now what happens is I've only got, did it set it? Didn't commit it. 5, check mark. And now I've got 5 in the long direction. So in fact, my U is the kind of east-west, I guess, Nazareth in your model. And then the V is the up-down. Anyways, what I'd like to do is actually parameterize this so I can create, why don't we do 20? If I can either type the word slider, so number slider, or if I type a value, I can type, let's do 20. It's going to give me number slider. It's going to pop up here. And if I go ahead, same thing, I'm going to plug this, click and drag this into U. Now I've got 20 in the U direction. Control C, Control V, and now I've got 20 in the V direction. So I can reduce this if I want. Say I only want 5. I can create a kind of simple set of geometry here, right? So, if I go ahead and I want to hide this. How do I hide you? Now I've got just the geometry for this kind of magnificent set of structures. So I can mess with this if I want. I can make, however many spaces I want, some fun geometry happening, right? Some pinch points here. So, depending how accurate our model is, how perfect that shape is, we might have to mess with this a little bit, but it's looking pretty close. I'm liking maybe a bit more. Probably something like this. So pretty sophisticated, pretty fun, right? So, and now we have the nodes. So the nodes are these X's, and then we have lines A and lines B. So real quick, there's a command called list item. So I'm just going to pop open. I wonder if I can just do list item. Let's do this. Oh, that's useless. I don't want to do this. Garbage. List item is probably the easiest way. Where's my list item? There it is. List item, and I'm just going to go ahead and pop that in here. And if I select this, it should give me a little green. Can I hide this for now? Let's hide this for now. Aha. So just so you know, we've got green, right? So this is every single line for our A here. So I actually don't know which way is A, which way is B. It might be all of them. So let's go ahead and try it again here. We can come down here. I'm going to right click and disconnect this one. Oh, shoot. I did the wrong way. That's okay. Move this up, and I tag this in here. And now I can actually see that one is on the I don't want to say vertical. One is in the V direction and one is in the kind of diagonal direction. So I don't really know how this is going to be helpful. So let's take a look at this. If we can create another number here. Let's do 10, and let's see. We can list a index here and see which one is 10. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm going to do this again. Hide. If I go, oops. Interesting. Well, let's try 10 in this one. My color blindness really shows its colors when I'm doing this. So can I delete this one? And let's try this again. Let's hide this because all I want, oh, there it is. There we go. There it is. So basically I can list any one of these. It looks like these are all of my kind of horizontals, and this must be my Must be my diagonals. Let's look it up. Oh, shoot. I see. I was like, what's going on? I only want the one. Whoops, that's why. Yeah, are these the diagonals? These are the diagonals. So, you know, why is this important? So these are the diagonals and these are the other braces. I don't know how helpful this is for us, but really what I wanted to do is just to understand which pieces are which. And so I know that now those are the kind of cross bracing members. What I might do though is just to really simplify it, this is something I might do in the office, is there's a pipe command. Pipe is something we use to say I've got a set of lines in this case. So I've got a set of curves. So I have all these curves happening in the model. And what I can do is actually drag this lines A into curve and let's see what happens. So nothing happens, but if I zoom in here, we can actually set a radius. So the radius is the dimension of the curve, of the pipe itself. And if I set this to say 75, let's go ahead and do that. And I plug that 75 into my radius. Well, now I have a pretty reasonable, idea about what the structure is. So you can see here, we've just done it on the kind of square panels, right? So the square panels are now happening. So now I can, what if I want to make these a little bit bigger? What if I want to make them a little bit smaller, right? So all parameterized. And now what I can do is I probably even want them even bigger. So let's make it 200 here. Instead, plug that into radius here, delete this one. And now that radius of all those pipes is now, we can see it in real time. What else can I do? Well, I can also just go ahead and plug that same set into here. Oh, whoops. Hold shift and you can do both of them. And now I've got a kind of really nice structure starting to emerge. Right? So this is all from the genesis of our original surface. So if I want to do just, let's go ahead and do that. I can do one piece at a time, right? So what are the steps? I start with my surface, I move into the kind of geometry of it, and then I can step into a kind of piped surface system here. So, for argument's sake, imagine now, somebody says, well, can we add in some extra U values here? I actually don't want 6, I want 7. If we're drawing this by hand, that's going to take a really long time, but magic, right? So now we can adjust the number of V divisions. We can adjust, maybe we want more of these in the U. Maybe we want to adjust the size of the pipes, right? All this stuff is parametric. So these are just the rules we've set up. I like 7, and then we can kind of, and then we can kind of come back down here and just adjust this. Maybe this is better. 39 is looking pretty good. Back to pipe. I'd probably set this to something like 150. But yeah. Now, do we like this? Do we hate it? Right? So what we can do is, in order to test this, we can right click and we can actually bake this. And baking just means we're going to actually put it in the model. Currently, there's no physical geometry. It's kind of like a little preview for the model. So let's model 3D structure. Right? And what I can do is right click, bake this. I'll put it on my 3D structure here. And let's go by layer. Ta-da. And now I'm just going to go ahead and turn all of this off for now. But now, Nazrat, we have this pretty slick looking, well, up to you if you think it looks slick, but slick looking geometry. If I was to kind of come back in here and turn on everything but the roof, let's see what we get. Right? So now, we step down into, Nazrat's perspective here, we've got a nice, well, nice is maybe these pipes are looking a little heavy. So we can come back in and say, oof, looking a little beefy for me. So we probably want these to be a little less beefy. So what we can do is come back into Grasshopper and, I should have grouped them. So I should have baked these onto a group as well. But for right now, let's jump back into Grasshopper here. And I'm probably going to make this half. Probably make this half as big. And right click, I'm going to bake. And I'm going to group them because I feel like that's just common sense. We've got 3D structure here. Let's do OK. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on all my layers again, except roof, and then I'll do roof. So Command Shift and turn them on. And, maybe this is a little bit less intense with the bits there. But now you can start to see maybe a little bit of a structure here. There are other ways to do this. We could do a little extrusion here along the rails. I just wanted to kind of simplify it for us for now. Some fun things about the geometry. What happens if I come around the other side here? I know, Nazrat, we got some work to do to cut out the geometry out of this space and probably do something fun with the as this morphs down, but we can do that afterwards. It's no problem. So that parameterization of the system is a huge part of this. Second piece is, maybe we actually want some glass up here, right? So let's fire up our little piece here, back to Grasshopper. I'm going to turn these off again. And maybe there's something that we want to kind of mess with on the glass side. It's going to try and organize my stuff a little bit. It can be really helpful to kind of keep this stuff as well organized as we can. I don't really need this. I don't really need this. It's fine. The pipe, something like this. Slightly different version, but very, very similar is we are actually now, why don't we try this one? So this is triangular panels. So slightly different command, but we've got some surfaces we can use. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this in here. Look at that. Fairly similar. Let's go, I'm going to copy the surface. Let's drag it in here. What do I get? What if I turn this one off? Let's turn this off for now. 3D structure, turn that off. And now I've got somewhat similar, but this is, just think of this as the glass, right? So what we can do now is we probably need to offset the surface. So I'd like to give myself a little offset surface. And before we get in here, so I'm going to go and then over here and surface. So I need to give it a dimension. So what is that dimension? Let's give it 75 or so. Let's do 75, enter. And that dimension, and let's just check, what did it offset? So it offset it up by 75. That's probably right. And what's T? Retrim, we don't need that. And now, what would make sense? Do we want to match the U and V? Probably. So let's see what we get. So match the U, match the V, and now we should have, if I shift select, we should have a nice little panelized system. Super fun, right? So now if I kind of click this off or click it on, we've got one part of this is the glass and one part of it is the pipe. And so I offset that by 75. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe it should be 100. Give ourselves a little bit of space. The panels themselves, we can probably, let's leave them as just one surface for now. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new system here. Let's do 3D roof option 2. And 3D roof option 2 glass. So real quick here, I'm going to create the structure here on roof option 2. I'm going to group it. Roof option 2, group it, yes. I'm going to right click, bake this, and I'm going to put it on roof option 2 glass, group it. Okay. Obviously, nuts. Obviously, it's not, it's not glass currently. But what we've got here is a pretty sophisticated, set of geometry here. And if I jump back in here and turn everything back on, whoops. All right, imagine now we can actually grab this, turn on the glass, and all of that glass geometry is live in the model. I know. I can see here we've got some cleaning up of the model to do, but I just wanted to give us an idea of how powerful that Grasshopper tool can be, and I do hope that this is kind of a helpful intro, Nazareth, how we might get to something interesting or fun. Off the top of my head, there is one last thing I should probably do. How long have we been talking for now? Almost an hour. So I know how long these sessions can go. So let's make sure I don't blow the budget here on timing. But just for reference, I think these are helpful videos anyways. Zoom out a little bit. This surface. So, how do we actually generate that surface? What we can do is grab let's do a totally different exercise here. And I'll grab our curves basically. So curve. And this will be a collection of curves rather than just a curve. Where's my... cut sections? Is this the one? Yeah, cut sections. So now, let's see what we can do. Can I do loft in here? Let's see what we got. Loft, collection of curves. Curves is list. And I got loft options. I got to remember what these are. Loft options. Whoops. Rebuild is probably fine. Normal is fine. And we can actually start to generate our curve or our, what's on the right here? Our surface inside of Grasshopper. So if I go ahead and I select these curves and then I right click and I say set multiple curves and then send this into our loft, it's going to think for a second. It might do some really crazy things like what you see here, which is just a mess of candy. So sometimes it's simpler to not do this. Let's go ahead and let's see if we can maybe keep it loose and then rebuild, commit changes. We try that again. No. Okay. Well, not perfect. So let's try this a little bit differently. I'm going to try this again. Curve, delete that. And let's try these. Let's try these just for now. Set multiple curves. And let's see. So I don't want it to loop back in on itself. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. Yeah, it's not going to help me. It is closed. So I'm not sure why it's doing this. Sometimes it's easier just to do it inside of Revit, but I was hoping for a simple version of this. It doesn't look like it's going to cooperate with me. So one thing I can try is, let's see if we got a surface here. It's not a poly surface, but it's a surface from, this is what I want, but it's not working. I got to remember what it's called. There is a way to generate this as a surface using, oh, maybe it's in here. It's basically a surface. Is it boundary? Maybe that's a set. Oh, network surface. That's exactly what I was looking for. So U and V. So what do I want to do? I probably want, oh, it's just curves. Okay. So this should work. Let's see if we can try this. So let's do, again, we'll do a collection of curves. So I don't know if it's because of the order I selected them in. Maybe that's why it's freaking out in my loft. I don't think so. It doesn't matter. I still got to have that curve parameter set up. So let's do curve. And then we'll right click on this one. Oh no, I got to right click inside of set multiple curves here. Let's do this real quick. Oh, I need the edges. It's not going to let me do this without the edges. Okay, I guess I can do the edges. Let's try this. See if this works. Okay, let's try this real quick. Snap to all of our points here. Hopefully it doesn't have a freak out. Bum, 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 bum. Thank you for your patience, everybody. Snap to all these points. Oops. Look at this fancy geometry over here, curving in on itself. We'll see. We'll see how good network surface is here. I'm really surprised loft didn't just work, but it is a pretty complicated piece of geometry, so sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate. Oh yeah, it's not looking great. Let's go back. You know what? I'm going to make sure I go from the same direction. These UV directions can matter the way we create the curve. I'm literally just plugging in each endpoint here to generate this interpolated curve. I keep going here. We'll go all the way to the end here. Just check this out. Blam, blam, blam. Okay, curve. Now I'm just going to choose these two curves and right click, and we will set multiple curves in here, and let's see what we get. Nothing. Oh boy. I see. Something failed. I'm not sure why. Oh, well, that sucked. Okay, that was an experiment gone wrong, so what a waste of time. That's okay. So, for now, why don't we just stop here? This is probably good enough for now. I feel like that was a lot of content for our little brains to handle. I'll have to do network surfaces with a simpler shape. This is really fun to build, but I think that what can happen is, now that we've built it, you know, I was thinking that it would be easy just to kind of modify some of these curves, but in fact, it looks like it's not quite going to shake out that way. So, this is a good start. How about that? That's a good start. We got some fun stuff happening inside of Rhino, and then let's just turn these on and turn off my cut sections and turn back on my the rest of it. Right? You know, maybe this is something you can use. I hope so. I think it'd be pretty fun. The poor tree getting hit by our geometry here, but we can always work on that a little bit. And yeah, maybe I'll stop there. So thanks guys for tuning in. I think that this is just one version of how you might use Grasshopper inside of Rhino to generate some formed geometry. And I do think it can be super fun to kind of hang out with and experiment with. And we've only done about an hour worth of content, so I feel like there's always more to be done, and happy to help. See you guys in class on Tuesday, and talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.